when the saints go marching in.
Vox Fidei brings you into the inner life of the Word made flesh. Father Chris guides us in the lives of the saints in Saintly series.
Welcome, it's Saintly series. Today, 9th of September, we celebrate St. Peter Claver, Confessor. St. Peter Claver was born on the 26th of June, 1580, to the family of a wealthy Spanish farmer in Verdú, Catalonia, Spain. Peter Claver's parents were pious and devout Catholics. And so, Peter, having studied at the University of Barcelona, was noted for his intelligence and piety. He entered the Jesuit novitiate in Tarragona in the year 1602 and made his final vows on the 8th of August, 1604. He would listen to St. Alphonsus Rodriguez, who was known for his piety and gift of prophecy. Listening to him, he would hear him tell him stories of barbarism and atrocities committed in slave trading in the colonies of the New World. Over 10,000 slaves were being imported yearly from the African continent. At the age of 30, Peter Claver, having volunteered, mounted on the slave ship and headed Cartagena, Colombia. As soon as a ship arrives with loads of slaves in Cartagena, slaves from Angola and Congo, and some captured from different places and some bought for price, some products of trade by barter, he will go to the ship. Due to the inhuman conditions these slaves faced, over half of the slaves even died before they arrived their destination, and they were fed to the sea creatures. Peter Claver will climb down to the container that housed these slaves in their cages, with the offensive odor there, with the diseases, with the flow of blood there, with tears and agony and fear, and with their chains and shackles. Language was not a barrier for him, because his kind gesture was a language even the slaves understood. He would clean their wounds and refresh them with the much he had available. He would follow up with care and concern for them even after they had left the ship. 6 years after his arrival in Cartagena, Peter Claver was ordained a priest, a Jesuit. He taught them catechism, and it is said that he baptized over 300 of slaves in Cartagena, and he admonished over 5,000 penitents at confession every year. And he ensured too that the rights of slaves were respected. Every day, Peter Claver labored ceaselessly for the abolition of slavery, and he took care of the sick amongst them and those who were dying. He preached in the city square to sailors and slave traders, all in the bid to ensure that they stop this inhuman treatment. Peter Claver was known as the apostle of the Negroes. He organized charitable societies among the Spanish in America. And one thing that was remarkable of his contact with the slaves was that he ministered to all the African slaves, the black slaves who were brought to those colonies, irrespective of their religious affiliations. He will say, "We must speak to them with our hands by giving before we speak to them with our lips." Even though Peter Claver was unable to abolish slave trade, his efforts, to a large extent, alleviated it. In the last years of his life, he took ill and even began to limp for about 4 years. He seemed then largely forgotten and neglected, even by the slave that was to take care of him. But in this, he did not complain. He bore all his sufferings as just punishment for his sins. He died on the 8th of September, 1654, at the age of 74. And due to his piety, many people came and took things away from his house because they held them as forms of relics. The city magistrates, who had considered Peter Claver a nuisance because of his persistence and advocacy on behalf of the slaves, and even didn't want Peter Claver around the area, gave Peter Claver a grand burial. A church was even built in honor of Peter Claver in Cartagena, Colombia, the Church of St. Peter Claver. And the 9th of September, his feast day, is declared a National Human Rights Day in Colombia till date. The slogan most popular today is Black Lives Matter. St. Peter Claver, through his love for slaves, teaches us to avoid every form of discrimination. His love for slaves is a sign that we must not let our race or our ethnicity cause us to treat others as inferiors, but we must see all as made in the image and likeness of God. At the canonization of Peter Claver, Pope Leo XIII said, "No life except the life of Jesus Christ has moved me so deeply as that of Peter Claver." The date of his canonization is 15th of January 1888 by Pope Leo XIII. He is the patron saint of slaves and seafarers. The color of the day is white. What we offer the saints is veneration. Peace be with you. I am Father Chris, Vox Fidei.
Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in.
Vox Fidei, God is in charge.